Hello again, and welcome to another exciting, hopefully, episode of Social Studies. I'm going to try to keep it short. I know I've said that before, but I'm really going to try. Today, we are going to talk about ratification of the Constitution, and we're going to fill in some notes. And I think I'm going to just give you a few little questions that you will be able to use your notes to answer. So as long as you use your notes and as long as you watch all of this video, you will get a perfect score. So, ratification. And I'm allergic. I'm going to sneeze. I'm sure. I can feel one coming. Sorry. And now my mouse is not working. There we go. This is the sheet you need. This is sheet number 3, ratification of the Constitution. It has the stars on top. I will put it in Cami way down at the bottom as well if you do not have your paper copy. And we're going to just fill this in and talk about it a tiny bit and then answer a few questions. So this is where we're going to start. It starts off with when, what, and I'm going to try to stick to the script and pretty much follow along right down here. So the Constitution gets written in Philadelphia, 1787, the Constitutional Convention, 55 delegates from 12 of the 13 states. They write this document. They suggest, but even though they are technically overthrowing the national government, they put it out to the states and they say, okay, states, it's up to you now. You decide whether we're going to accept, adopt, or the word is to ratify it or not. Now, this is the ratification debate, is the debate over that. So, when it's going to be after the Constitutional Convention, 1787 and 1788. Do you need to write this all out? No, but you should realize that if they're approving the Constitution that was written at the Constitutional Convention, it happened after the Constitutional Convention. If you understand the concept, you don't even need to write that down. It starts in mostly 1787 and into 1788 is when it happens. What, in order to become law, the law of the land, the Constitution had to be ratified or approved by at least 9 of the 13 states. Hint, hint, hint. Blue underlined words or numbers are key. And ratify means to approve, to accept, to agree with. You don't need to write all of them, but that you need to get the idea there. Okay. Should the states ratify the Constitution? Seems like a no-brainer. Who could be against the Constitution? Everybody loves the Constitution. The Constitution is what makes our country great, etc., etc., etc. There were some actual reasons to not ratify it, as we shall see. But first, why should you ratify it? The people who wanted to ratify it were called Federalists. Federalists were people who supported or wanted ratification of the Constitution. Why did they want it ratified? Mostly because they thought that we needed a stronger national or federal government. Remember, national government, federal government mean the same thing here. So they believed the U.S. needed a stronger national government or stronger federal government. Keep that in mind. They believed that the new Constitution would make the U.S. stronger and it would still protect people's rights. They thought that was going to work out just the way it was. Now, just to go back here, make sure we filled in everything. We're down to here. We should have all of this filled in. If not, pause, go back, etc. Now we are on this little thing called the Federalist Papers. So while this debate that the states were having about whether they should ratify the Constitution or not, and specifically in New York, there was a big debate. New York was a key state because New York was one of the biggest states, not the biggest, but it was a big, important, powerful state. And there was a lot of debate. It was questionable. Some states went right for it. Some did not. New York, it's questionable. And in order to sway the debate, to influence the debate, there's a series of newspaper essays that are written anonymously at first, although it's later revealed who wrote them. Anonymous, not unanimous. Anonymous. They were written under a pseudonym of Publius, which means public, like the public good. So these were written in the press and speedily will be published. The Federalist, a collection of essays, or essays, as you know, written in favor of the new Constitution by a citizen of New York. Now, there were 85 of these essays written, and they are written by three people. The Federalist Papers, so essays in favor or support of the Constitution, written by these three: James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. Hamilton is the one who writes most of them. He writes 51 of the 85. I think John Jay writes 5 maybe, and James Madison writes the rest. And these become very influential, not just in New York, but around the whole, all of the 13 states. And they remain very powerful to this day because lots of things in the Constitution are not really clear what they mean. And it would be nice if we could go and ask the people who wrote it what they meant when they wrote these things. And the best way many people think to do that is to read the works of these people. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison specifically were influential. They helped write the Constitution, so they might be in a good position to explain what they think the Constitution means. We'll learn later it's not a perfect way, but it's a way. During the recent impeachment hearings, really all the time, the Federalist Papers are referred to in the media, in the news, etc., and by politicians, trying to explain what certain parts of the Constitution means. For example, recently, can a former president be impeached? That was a big question. And both sides ended up arguing, but specifically that the Federalist Papers answered that question because it's not really clear in the Constitution. All right, that brings us famous Federalists, and we've just named the two most famous Federalists, Alexander Hamilton and James Madison. Those are two famous. You can write John Jay as well, but these are the two most famous Federalists. And just a hint, now Hamilton is the more famous one nowadays because there's a Broadway show called Hamilton, which we will talk about later in class sometime. But if you want to make your life easier, not just 7th grade, but all of your life, remember this. Whenever you think of Alexander Hamilton, and hopefully you will think of Alexander Hamilton often, whenever you think of him, remember, Hamilton wants a strong federal government. So whenever you think Hamilton, every single time you get a $10 bill, think to yourself, strong federal government. That's what he wants. Strong federal government. That's why he is considered a Federalist. Knowing that fact, remembering that fact will make your life easier, I promise you, because it will make 7th grade easier, etc., etc. Okay. I will give you an imaginary $10 bill to remember that. Now, on to the Anti-Federalists. How could anyone be opposed or against the Constitution? Well, the Anti-Federalists were. These were people who opposed ratification of the Constitution. Now, you need to know what opposed means. It means they were against it. Like the opponent, the opposition, like when you're playing the opposite, it means going against. So anti means against. These people were against the Federalists. They were against the Constitution. How could you be against the Constitution? Everybody loves the Constitution. How could you be against it? Well, they had some decent reasons. In some ways, they end up being the heroes of this argument. Why did they oppose it? First of all, they were afraid that a powerful national government would take away powers and rights from the states and individuals. So you can basically just write down this underlined part in the blanks. I clicked too soon, but this is the other reason. Pause while you write this down and then come back to me. La-di-da. Back? Okay. They wanted a Bill of Rights to guarantee individual rights. Basically, the Constitution originally did not have a Bill of Rights. We'll talk a lot about the Bill of Rights, but the Constitution, this was supposed to be something to protect individual rights. A lot of the things that we think of in the Constitution, like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to not have your home searched and stuff like that, those things are all in the Bill of Rights. They were not in the original Constitution. And the Anti-Federalists said, whoa, we don't want this Constitution. I don't know if they really said whoa, but they said, we do not want this Constitution unless it has a Bill of Rights. Famous Anti-Federalists, pick one. Doesn't matter who, any of these. I'm not going to ask you straight out, but you could write all of them if you want. That's okay. These people were against the Constitution. Oh, now just go back here, make sure we've gotten all that. So you should have all of this part filled in. Now we're going on to ratification. The Constitution was finally ratified in 1788 after Federalists agreed that the new government would add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the first 10, or are the first 10 year amendments to the Constitution. No, amendments are changes to the Constitution. Make your life easier and remember this. Amendments are changes to the Constitution. These are supposed to protect individual rights. The Constitution went into effect, and, well, let me go back here. Oh, wrong way. Okay. Wait, all right, back up for 1 second. So here you can see, remember, they had to have 9 states ratify the Constitution. Delaware, if you ever look at a Delaware license plate, it says the first state. And the reason for that is because they were the first state to ratify the Constitution in December of 1787. So they're considered the first state. They go first for a lot of things because of they were the first ones to do that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now New Hampshire put them over the limit. However, without Virginia and New York, this was not going to be much of a country. So the debate was pretty intense. Even after they got to 9, which is what they needed, they still really, these two were a big, serious debate. And you can see how close the vote was in New York. This was at a special convention, a meeting in New York I think it was in Albany actually, to decide. And these 57 people voted. It was 30 to 27. So it was a very close vote, but it does get ratified. So it was ratified in 1788 after Federalists. Now, there was kind of a compromise here. The Federalists agreed and promised that the new government would add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. They would add a Bill of Rights. That was in return what they had to promise. They said, hey, if you, Anti-Federalists, if you agree to vote for this new Constitution, we promise you the first thing we're going to do is to change this new Constitution to add a Bill of Rights to protect individual rights. And we did that. The new government begins to operate, and one of the first things they are going to do is to change the Constitution. One of the first actions was to amend or change the Constitution by adding a Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments or 10 changes to the Constitution. Our government has continued to operate under this Constitution ever since 1789. All right, that is it. You need to know what a Constitution is, of course. You can read that. That is all. I went a little longer than I hoped, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Oh, was there going to be a secret password? What was the macaroni? Macaroni. Stuck a feather in your hat cap and called it macaroni. That's what Yankee Doodle did. So if I ask for the secret passcode, that's what it is.